This is Keith Haney, host of Film Session with Haney and DeWitz. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
What's up, everybody? This is Christian Heimel, host of Press Row here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Press Row, where we talk about the biggest issues in sports with the analysts, experts, and reporters who cover them. No nonsense, hard-hitting interviews on the sports topics you're talking about. A new show comes out every single Thursday. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Press Row. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, sleep like a dog, leap like a frog. Welcome to Completely Serious. That catchphrase was submitted by Muhammad Ali Baba. Thank you, Muhammad, for that nice contribution to our podcast. And thank you, yes, you, the listener, for clicking the sideways triangle on the podcast. You didn't have to click it. You could have just read the title and thought, nah, I'll just watch Netflix instead. But you decided to play the show where we have fun and talk sports, and I don't blame you because you probably saw the name Joel Godett on the podcast and were immediately hooked. Joel is the voice of Ball State Athletics, the university's director of broadcasting, and the host of the popular Play-By-Playcast podcast. Joel, what percentage of that is accurate?
Well, the title's correct. The
Okay.
part about everybody clicking because they saw my name is probably off. But other than that, we're good.
Okay, good. Well, we're off to a decent start then. That's good. Hey, thanks for taking some time, too. We really appreciate it. You broadcast so many sports on multiple platforms as the director of broadcasting at Ball State. And I could be wrong here, so please don't feel awkward correcting me. You do a lot more than just broadcasting a sporting event, I would imagine.
I do. We've got a giant video board arena that they installed since I've been here. So we didn't have anybody to consistently make content for it. We've got a really good student media program at Ball State, and they do some stuff. But a lot of that falls on me and some other people in the teleplex and things of that nature here. But I make a lot of the green screen stuff you see for that, and everybody telling you to make noise and get loud. Then I do all our web videos, so features and, just updates on different teams and get to know different players and all that jazz. So, and then obviously we do some podcasts too. We're in this realm now also. So I stay busy on a day-to-day basis.
It's a lot, and I don't think people realize that what goes on behind the scenes in an athletic department. I mean, you really have 5 or 6 people doing so much different media work throughout the day, whether, like you said, be podcasting, creating videos for a video board, or just writing the press releases. There's so much that actually goes on behind the scenes.
Tons, and then it varies depending on where you work,
Sure.
as far as how much is on your plate, because various media departments are various sizes, and that ranges from your media relations people down to your video departments. And when it comes to video, it's I do the bulk of it. Some of our media relations people help out from students that do some work for us, but beyond that, it's me. So when we do production shoots and things like that, it's I'm setting the lights up and I'm making sure everything's square, and then I'm running the cameras, and it's hectic. It leads to me making mistakes from time to time, and then learning how to cover them up. But all's well that ends well, I guess. So.
What's the best part of getting to be the voice of a sporting team?
You get to go to the games for free,
Of course.
and you get the best seat in the house. Honestly, I mean, the best part about it is that you, on a regular basis, are in the action. And that's why we all do what we do to some extent. Is we like to go to games, we like to feel the roar of the crowd and feel the excitement and be able to convey that. And I get to do that this time of year 3 or 4 times a week. And that's the best part about it. And on top of that, the best part about working for a team and working for a school is that you get to know the kids.
Yeah.
And you get to, develop those relationships and learn their stories, what makes them, interesting and unique and special, and, kind of witness their development from freshmen to seniors or fifth-year seniors or sixth-year seniors, and kind of tell that story as it unfolds. And that's a lot of fun as well.
What's been the most exciting moment? Is there a moment that you've called at Ball State that stands out as this was the most exciting moment I've had a chance to call so far?
Grandest stage, I peaked early. My first football season was 2012, and Ball State went 9-3 that year. Regular season went 9-4 overall. And the second game, was it the second? I don't know. It was either the second or third game that season. Yeah. We went to Indiana and blew a big lead late and then won. The final two plays of the game, Willie Snead, who's now with the New Orleans Saints, made a catch sliding out of bounds at 30-some-odd yard line, 35-yard line, and the clock ran out. And they reviewed it, they ruled it was a catch, and they added 1 second back onto the clock. And then our kicker, a guy by the name of Steve Schott, hit a 51-yard field goal to win at Indiana. And then it was either the next week or 2 weeks later, South Florida, who at the time was still a Power 5 team because they were in the Big East, came to our place in Muncie, Indiana, and Ball State beat them. And it was Willie Snead again who made a one-handed catch going out the back of the end zone. So that was kind of cool. Those are two really cool moments. The other one would be a couple of years ago in the Mid-American Conference Baseball Tournament. It's still the craziest damn thing I've ever seen. Double elimination. Ball State had not lost. The team they were playing, Akron, had. And Ball State blows an 8-run lead in the ninth inning with 1 out and loses 9-8. And now they've got to come back that night and play an elimination game in the semifinals of the conference tournament. And we're down in the ninth inning, I think 9-5 off the top of my head, and came all the way back and got a 2-out bases clearing single to tie the game, and then a single to win the game followed that. It was I've never seen 2 ninth-inning comebacks in elimination games back-to-back in my life, so that was pretty legit.
Do you have to balance between being a fan and a broadcaster in those moments? Like, I feel like for me, it would automatically switch to, I'm a fan, I'm getting excited. How do you kind of subdue that? Or maybe you don't in those big moments.
You don't. Doing what I do, you don't. Because, there's a balance. For the most part, doing what I do, you don't. Because, you're the Ball State guy, and I'm not a homer, but, I'm certainly going to get excited. And, when there's a bases clearing triple or a bases clearing single, which never happens, 3 guys on, the guy scores from first on a single, you're going to start going a little bit nuts. And I remember I probably went a little bit nuts on that one. You counterbalance that with, I do our ESPN rebroadcast for home basketball games. And in those situations, I call them down the line. So you kind of go more journalist than fan. And if you're going to fist pump, you kind of do it under the table. So there's a balance. It's a little bit of both.
You also host a great podcast called Play-By-Playcast, where you pick the knock-ins of some of the best sports broadcasters in the country. And I'm sure you've learned a lot from your weekly chats, but are there any core lessons that kind of come to mind?
Because that this business has no path, and a lot of it is pure luck. And luck obviously is, preparation meeting opportunity. So there's work that goes into that.
Good saying, yes.
But it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is hearing how everybody gets to where they get. And, I don't want to pretend to know about other businesses and industries, but, you got a pretty good idea. Like, if you want to be a superintendent, all right, you become a teacher, then you maybe become a department supervisor, and then a principal, and then maybe you're an assistant super, and then you're a superintendent. You want to work in corporate America, you're going to start low, you're going to work your way up. Broadcasting doesn't necessarily work that way, and there is no one way to do it. There are a lot of guys that, want to do play-by-play, and they'll go not do play-by-play in a big market. And they're in a big market, and they're around, and people know them, and they'll do a couple gigs here and there when they're calling games. And then when a major league job opens in that city, they're in line for it. Guys that go out and, just do play-by-play and refine their craft out on the fringes of, society and slowly climb their way up that ladder. And eventually a major league job opens, and they get themselves in that situation. Learning about how everybody gets to where they get, and also realizing that there is no way to replicate anybody's particular path. In terms of, I guess that kind of carries over in terms of the actual mechanics of what we do as well, because everybody has a different perspective, and everybody has a different way that they've gotten to be good at what they do, and how they can, various guys listen to themselves a lot and critique their own work. Consistently, they all do various amounts of preparation, very solid amounts of preparation, and that's a constant you can pick out. Some people, take laborious voice lessons, work to refine their instrument, and other guys just have golden pipes, or just, this is how it sounds, so it is what it is. So it's interesting because everybody is their own kind of unique cookie, and there's no there's no cutter.
The way you phrase that, no, the cookie cutter thing's great. No, that's a lot of really good information. I think a lot of that actually could apply to, especially for sports broadcasting, but there's, I think, some careers too, as well, and just life in general. Not everything is linear. There's a lot of different ways to get to a place. I think there's some good life lessons in there too. I have some off-the-wall questions. Here's the first one. We are recording this podcast on Bo Jackson's birthday. Of course, he was such a great baseball player and a great football player. And some say he may even be the greatest overall athlete of all time. Which of these would you rather attempt? Trying to pitch to Bo Jackson and striking him out, or try to tackle him in the open field?
I would rather learn to run up the outfield wall like he did, which I think might be the most famous video of he did in his playing career. I'd rather pitch to him because the worst thing that happens is he hits it out. If I tried to tackle him, I might die. So I feel like that's a win-win on the pitching side.
Yeah, I felt like when I was running that question, that might even be almost too obvious. I think I'm with you, though. I would not want to tackle Bo Jackson. He's a very large guy. And he made professional athletes feel a lot of pain. So I'm right there with you. Now, legend has it also that Bo Jackson was pretty much good at everything he tried, not just baseball and football. Hypothetical situation here. Your life is on the line, and you have to beat Bo Jackson in one of these 4 competitive things, or things that can be competitive. And I want you to tell me which one you would pick and why, and I'll pick 2 to give you some time to think about it. Option 1 is eating. Option 2 is ping pong. Option 3 is sheep herding. And option 4, because the topic always makes our way into this podcast, is curling. So eating, ping pong, sheep herding, and curling are your 4 options. Which of those 4 things would you trust yourself to be better at than Bo Jackson? For me, it's ping pong by default because I eat like a bird. I'm afraid of most farm animals. I don't even know how to skate. So for me, it's ping pong. But is there one of those 4 that you think you would confidently beat Bo Jackson at?
I've never curled. My brother has, and
Wow,
I know
okay.
it takes practice because you have to use like a PVC kickstand to start with.
Interesting.
And I'm bad at shuffleboard. Eating, I'm pretty good at, but he's an NFL player, so
Yeah.
there's no chance because he eats to keep weight on. I don't. I weigh 140 pounds. But when I worked for the Pittsburgh Pirates down at their spring training home in Florida, I stayed in their dormitories on the campus of Pirate City, and they had a ping pong table there, and all of the Latin American players, for the most part Dominicans and Venezuelans,
Sure.
live in the dormitories as well, and they play their games in the morning in the Gulf Coast in the afternoons after they do their workouts and such. So when I was there and they were there, and the ping pong table was always available in the game room, you would play against them. So I know that my skill against professional athletes in ping pong is not where it needs to be. So I'm going to go with sheep herd of us is capable, and I've got a chance to maybe learn it quicker than he does.
I like that. I like the way you thought through that, too. That's very analytical.
Yeah.
So sheep herding for you, I think that was probably going to be my second choice. So I think that's a good option. So I'm glad we got that important question in. That's great. Holiday season's coming up. Do you have anything on your sports Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa list? Maybe something you would like to see happen? For me, I'd like to see every injured player on my fantasy football team get a new ACL. But maybe there's something that you would like.
Well, there's only 1 week left in our season, and I'm in last. So
Okay.
for nothing, David Johnson. And Greg Olson, you too. This is why I haven't played fantasy sports in a decade. Picked a great time to stop sniffing glue. That's the line from Airplane? I don't remember. What would I like in a sports regard? Yeah. I haven't called an NCAA tournament professionally. So that'd be kind of cool. One since 2000. It's got its best shot, I think, that it's had since this year. So, yeah, that'd be cool, both for me professionally and for all those guys on the team. It's kind of a group wish, I guess you could say.
Sure. No, we can definitely root for that. No, that'd be really exciting. Kind of goes into my next question, too, and I'll close with a couple broadcasting would-you-rather questions. The first one's courtesy of a sports guy, DC Ackerman, who's been on the show a couple times. Would you rather have a golf version of Jim Nantz follow you around and narrate your day, or a March Madness version of Gus Johnson act as your morning alarm clock for a week, if that question makes sense? I'm
pretty sure you can probably get Gus Johnson to do that. Like, they have the Gus Johnson soundboard. So if you're like more technologically advanced than I think you could probably pull that off.
You have to be a pretty big fan of Gus Johnson to want that, I think.
Part of me thinks that one's available.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd go with Gus.
Okay, all right, I like that.
Yeah, I'd go with Gus.
How about this one? Would you rather announce China's badminton championship, which I hear is massive over there, every year for the rest of your life, or one NCAA, here's where the question comes in, one NCAA March Madness game, say for Ball State or whoever it may be on national TV?
I'm going to go badminton. They got more people.
I mean, it's huge over there.
So technically, I would be broadcasting to more people.
You would.
And I've seen it in the Olympics, so because it's insane. And on top of that, that might be a foray into doing Olympic badminton. So, I'll trade the one-off, granted a national championship on national television, for the larger extent of wider audience on a badminton broadcast and further career advancement.
Joel Godett, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Can you remind people where they can find you both online and elsewhere?
Yeah, Play-By-Playcast is on Stitcher and iTunes. You can find it at Play-By-Playcast. I really didn't think when I titled it. It's not that easy to find. So Play-By-Playcast with hyphens between play and by. That comes out every Friday morning. I'm not sure when you're dropping this, but as we're recording this, tomorrow's episode will be John Sciambi from ESPN, so that'll be a fun one. So that's coming out. And then you can find Ball State stuff online, ballstatesports.com or at Ball State Sports, or on the radio or tune in with WLBC.
Joel Godett with Ball State University, thanks a lot for jumping on the podcast. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure, man.
And thanks to you for listening to Completely Serious on Public House Media. We'll talk to you next week.